They didn't scream when they saw the human bleed. They smiled. Because to them, blood meant weakness. And weakness meant prey. The first thing Lieutenant Amia Sullivan became aware of wasn't the pain. It was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. The wrong kind. The kind that follows an explosion when everyone who could scream can't anymore. Then came the smells. Burnt circuitry. Alien soil flash-heated into glass. And under it all, the copper-heavy tang of his own blood soaking into the ground of a world no human was supposed to survive. He forced one eye open. Above him, towering and elegant, stood the Varkesh Dominion hunting cadre. 6 limbs, bladed crests, eyes like polished obsidian. Apex predators of 3 conquered systems. They had studied humanity for years. Catalogued us. Labeled us. Prey species. High endurance. Low threat. Amia tried to laugh. It came out as a wet cough. One of the Varkesh clicked its mandibles in amusement. Their language translated directly into his cracked helmet speaker. Your pack is dead, soft thing. Do not struggle. You have served your ecological purpose. That was the moment the Dominion made their first mistake. Because humans don't measure danger the way predators do. We don't ask who has the claws or who has the teeth. We ask a different question entirely. How far are we willing to go to survive? Amia's squad had been ambushed during a survey mission, routine, boring, supposed to be safe. The Dominion had waited until the humans were tired, until their ammo ran low, until the math looked perfect. The Dominion always trusted the math. What they didn't calculate was hunger, not the simple need for food, but the deeper one, the kind that comes when you're wounded, cornered, watching your friends die, and something old wakes up inside you. Amia's hand twitched toward the fallen body beside him. Corporal Reyes. Still warm. Still carrying the emergency survival kit every human marine was trained to use on Deathworlds. The Varkesh noticed the movement and laughed again. Do you seek comfort, prey? Amia finally smiled. Blood ran down his teeth as he whispered, barely audible even to himself. No, I'm checking the menu. Because on Earth, predators learned a hard lesson a long time ago. Sometimes, the thing you hunt hunts back harder. And somewhere deep in the Dominion fleet's observation logs, a new variable was about to be added. One they would never forget. The first rule of the Dominion hunt was simple. Never let prey touch a weapon. The second rule was arrogance. As the Varkesh circled Amia, their attention stayed on his eyes, his breathing, the way his chest hitched with pain. They watched for fear, for surrender, for the moment prey always gave up. They didn't watch his fingers. Amia's hand closed around Reyes's survival pack. The fabric was torn, scorched, but intact. Inside were things the Dominion would never recognize as weapons. Nutrient bars compressed dense enough to break teeth. A thermal igniter. And a small, sealed packet marked with bold red letters. Emergency protein. Consume to survive. The Varkesh leader tilted its head, curious. Your kind eats even now? Fascinating. You consume to delay death. Amia tore the packet open with his teeth. The smell hit first. Not rot. Not poison. Something rich. Heavy. Like iron and smoke and old storms. His body reacted before his mind caught up. Heart rate spiking, pupils dilating, pain dulling at the edges. Human emergency rations weren't designed to taste good. They were designed to keep a Deathworlder moving when biology said stop. He swallowed. The Varkesh laughed. Pathetic. You feed while we prepare the kill. Then Amia stood up. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just wrong. Bones grinding back into place. Muscles tightening despite torn fibers. His bleeding slowed. Not stopped, but slowed enough. The laughter faded. Dominion records stated humans tired quickly after injury. That adrenaline was brief. Inefficient. They had dissected the data. What they hadn't understood was that adrenaline wasn't the human trump card. It was will. Amia flexed his hand. Pain screamed. He ignored it. Pain was just information, and right now it was telling him something important. He was still alive. One Varkesh stepped closer, curious now instead of amused. Its claws hovered inches from his throat. Your resistance is meaningless. Observe. The alien gestured, and from the treeline came movement. Heavy. Massive. The Dominion's true predator emerged. A 6-ton apex beast native to this world. Chitin armor. Acid saliva. A jaw built to crack starship hull plating. The Varkesh didn't hunt it. They used it. The translation came calmly through Amiya's helmet. This creature exterminates threats. We simply direct it. The beast roared. The ground vibrated. Even Amiya felt a flicker of fear then. Good. Fear meant clarity. He glanced at the predator, then at the Varkesh, then back at the half-open survival pack at his feet. Inside was one more item the Dominion had never bothered to analyze, because no species in the known galaxy considered it food. Amiya whispered, voice steady now. You really should have read the footnotes. The predator charged, and Amiya reached for the last ration. The Dominion's predator had never failed. Across 7 worlds, it had crushed armored columns, shredded megafauna, and erased entire resistance cells in minutes. It didn't think. It didn't hesitate. It obeyed pheromone commands broadcast from the Varkesh handlers embedded in its spine. To them, this was no fight. It was pest control. The beast slammed toward Amiya, each step cracking the glassed earth. Acid drooled from its mandibles, hissing where it struck the ground. One bite would dissolve him to slurry. The Varkesh leaned back, relaxed, already bored. Amiya ripped open the final ration. The label was simple, almost crude. Xenobiological contingency. Do not consume unless classified Deathworld entity present. Humans didn't pack this for themselves. They packed it for everything else. He hurled the ration straight into the predator's open maw. The Varkesh screeched in alarm. No. Too late. The ration ruptured against the creature's inner jaw, releasing a dense block of engineered biomass infused with catalytic compounds. To most species, it would have been inert. To this predator, whose metabolism ran hot, aggressive, and unregulated, it was gasoline on a star. The beast staggered. Its roar twisted into something else. Confusion. Pain. Hunger amplifying beyond control. Then it bit itself. The Dominion froze. Amiya watched as the creature's body chemistry spiraled. The ration wasn't poison. It was worse. It hijacked feeding responses, overriding pheromone commands, redirecting instinct toward the richest available protein source, which, unfortunately for the Dominion, was the creature's own handlers. The predator turned. 6 black eyes locked onto the Varkesh cadre. The handlers broadcast frantic override signals. Spines flared. Pheromones flooded the air. The beast ignored them. It lunged. Mandibles snapped shut around a Varkesh warrior, crushing chitin like brittle glass. Acid sprayed. Screams echoed. High. Terrified, disbelieving. Amiya backed away slowly, heart hammering, not in fear now, but grim awe. The Varkesh didn't understand. They had assumed predators ruled through strength. Humans knew better. Predators ruled through appetite. And appetite could be rewritten. One of the Dominion officers turned toward Amiya, claws shaking. What did you do? Amiya wiped blood from his mouth and met its gaze. I fed it. Behind them, the predator tore through its former masters with brutal efficiency. The handler's pheromones only made them smell richer, more desirable. The Dominion had claimed humans were prey because we lacked natural weapons. They never considered that humans invented them. And as the last Varkesh fell screaming into the beast's jaws, Amiya realized something chilling. This wasn't survival anymore. This was a lesson, and the galaxy was about to learn it. The predator finished feeding in silence. No triumph, no roar, just the wet, methodical sounds of consumption as it reduced the Dominion's finest hunters into biological waste. When it was done, it lifted its head, confused, bloated, instinct still screaming for more. Then it saw Amiya. For the first time since the ambush, Amiya felt fear return in full. Because now there were no handlers. No distractions. No one else between him and 6 tons of apex hunger. The beast took a step forward. Amiya didn't run. Running triggered chase instincts. Earth had taught humanity that lesson the hard way. Instead, he reached into his survival pack and pulled out the igniter. His hands were steady, even as blood dripped from his fingertips. The predator sniffed the air. It hesitated. Something in its hijacked metabolism was still searching for the richest protein source. Something familiar. The pheromone signals were gone, but the craving remained. Amiya spoke softly, not to the beast, but to himself. Easy. I'm not the meal you want. He triggered the igniter and tossed it behind the predator. A sharp flash. Heat. The scent of burning Varkesh chitin. The predator spun instantly and charged away from him. Amiya collapsed to one knee as the beast disappeared into the tree line, following the stronger signal, leaving scorched earth and silence behind. He exhaled a laugh that bordered on hysteria. Then his helmet crackled. "Sullivan, do you read?" Human voices. "Command." Relief slammed into him so hard it almost knocked him unconscious. "This is Lieutenant Amia Sullivan," he rasped. "Survey Team Echo is not intact. Hostiles neutralized." There was a pause. Too long. "Lieutenant," Command said carefully, "our long-range sensors just recorded something impossible. The Dominion Predator turned on its handlers." "Can you explain?" Amia looked at the carnage, at the glass ground, at the remains of the galaxy's most feared hunters. He chose his words with care. "They made a bad assumption," he said. "They thought predators were defined by what they hunted." Another pause. "And humans?" Command asked. Amia pushed himself to his feet. "Humans are defined by what we're willing to eat." Orbiting high above, unseen by him, a Dominion relay buoy continued transmitting. It had recorded everything. The ambush, the ration, the predator turning. And as that data streamed across Dominion space, analysts began to panic. Because for the first time in their history, the Dominion realized something terrifying. Humans didn't just survive apex predators. They reprogrammed them. And if humans could do that on a backwater Deathworld, what else could they do? The Dominion Council did not panic easily. They had consumed empires, erased civilizations, cataloged extinction events the way other species recorded weather patterns. Emotion was inefficient. Fear was wasteful. But when the relay buoy finished transmitting, the chamber fell silent. Again and again, they replayed the footage frame by frame, slowed it down, enhanced audio, isolated the moment where the human threw food into a controlled predator and turned it feral. A senior analyst finally spoke, mandibles trembling. The prey species altered a Class 7 apex's feeding hierarchy. The council leader's crest flared. "Impossible. Appetite is instinct. Instinct is immutable." The analyst hesitated. Not to humans. That was when the second mistake was made. Instead of retreating, the Dominion escalated. A declaration was drafted and broadcast across human channels. Cold, formal, dripping with superiority. Humans are designated managed prey. Resistance will be corrected. On Earth, the message played in war rooms, kitchens, ships, and colonies. And humans laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. The Dominion had assumed the incident was an anomaly. A wounded human. A lucky trick. They did not understand the deeper truth, that humans had been doing this since before they left their cradle. We domesticated wolves. We bred poison out of plants. We turned venom into medicine. We didn't fear predators. We studied them, then changed them. Human High Command convened within the hour. Not in panic, in curiosity. "Can we replicate the effect?" one general asked. A xenobiologist nodded slowly. "We already have." The ration was a field prototype. Silence. Then someone asked the question that changed the war. "What happens if we scale it?" The Dominion's first strike came 3 days later. A hunting fleet entered human-controlled space, deploying controlled megafauna onto frontier colonies. They expected screams. They got something else. Reports flooded in. Dominion beasts refusing commands, turning on handlers, hunting Dominion ships drawn by familiar pheromones. Humans adapted faster. By the fourth engagement, human Marines weren't just defending. They were bringing snacks. Amia watched the battle feeds from a med bay, ribs bound, arm in a sling. Each report confirmed what he already knew. The Dominion hadn't declared war on prey. They had declared war on a species that weaponized hunger. And now the galaxy was watching something unprecedented. Apex predators, choosing humans as partners. Not masters. Partners. The question wasn't whether the Dominion would lose. It was what would be left of them when humanity was done eating their assumptions alive. The first Dominion world to fall wasn't conquered. It was abandoned. Sensors showed it clearly, cities intact, defenses powered, orbital platforms armed. But no Varkesh life signs. No fleets. No counterattack. Just silence. Human scouts were the first to land. They expected traps. What they found were feeding grounds. Massive enclosures lay shattered across the plains. Inside them, the Dominion's prized predators roamed freely. Bigger, healthier, calmer than any recorded specimen. They didn't attack the humans. They watched, curious, assessing. Amia stood at the edge of one enclosure, helmet under his arm, heart pounding. These are tame, a Marine whispered. Amiya shook his head. No, he said. They're satisfied. The truth hit hard and fast across human command. The Dominion hadn't just lost control of their predators, they'd lost control of their food chain. Their entire civilization relied on dominance through hunger. They ruled by deciding who ate and who was eaten. Humans had broken that system. By feeding the predators better, the Dominion tried to adapt. New pheromones, neural overrides, pain conditioning. Nothing worked. The predators had learned something the Varkash never could. Humans didn't just provide food. They provided choice. And once a predator learns choice, it never goes back. In orbit above the abandoned world, a Dominion commander watched human transports land unopposed. His claws dug into the command dais. This is not war, he hissed. This is corruption. A subordinate replied quietly. No, exalted one. This is ecology. Across the system, Dominion colonies began broadcasting surrender signals, not to humans, but to the predators they once controlled. The irony was brutal. The Varkash begged for protection from the very creatures they had unleashed for centuries. Humans listened, then negotiated. Amiya attended one such meeting via holo, his injuries still fresh. A Dominion envoy appeared, posture stiff, pride shattered. You cannot control them forever, the envoy said. Predators will always turn. Amiya met its gaze calmly. We're not controlling them. Then what are you doing? Amiya smiled faintly. Coexisting. That word spread faster than any weapon. Coexistence. To the Dominion, it was heresy. To humans, it was survival instinct refined over millennia. Earth had never been kind. Humanity had learned early that extermination was inefficient. Adaptation lasted longer. As predator populations stabilized under human guidance, something else happened. Ecosystems healed. Worlds the Dominion had stripped bare began to recover. The galaxy noticed. And for the first time, neutral species began asking a dangerous question. If humans could tame predators without chains, what else could they change? The question spread faster than any fleet. Neutral systems, trade coalitions, even ancient empires that had survived by hiding behind treaties and tribute began to reassess a single, uncomfortable truth. Humans didn't conquer by force alone. They rewrote systems. The Dominion's final gamble came without warning. A super predator. Not bred, not controlled, not guided, unleashed. The creature was classified as a Class 10 extinction engine, a biomechanical horror engineered from multiple Deathworld genomes, designed to hunt everything. No pheromone receivers, no loyalty triggers, just endless hunger and adaptive intelligence. The Dominion released it toward Earth. If humans were defined by feeding predators, the Dominion would starve them. Amiya stood in the command bunker as the projections rolled in. The creature crossed interstellar distances by devouring fuel-rich matter, growing stronger with every system it passed through. Can we feed it? A strategist asked quietly. The room fell silent. Xenobiologists exchanged glances. It doesn't just eat, one said. It learns. Whatever we give it, it adapts beyond. For the first time since the war began, fear settled into the room. Earth was behind them. Humanity's cradle. The place where everything began. Amiya spoke up. Then we don't feed it. They all turned to him. We let it hunt, he continued. And we become something it can't eat. The plan was insane. Also very human. Human fleets evacuated entire systems, leaving behind nothing but decoys and controlled environments. No biomass. No easy energy. The super predator chased shadows, burning resources, growing frustrated. Then humans did something no one expected. They entered the hunting grounds. Unarmed. Amiya led the first contact team. No weapons. No rations. Just transmitters and one small, sealed container. The super predator emerged from the void like a living storm. It analyzed them instantly. Threat, negligible. Nutritional value, minimal. It turned away. That was the opening. Amiya activated the transmitter. Not pheromones. Not commands. Data. Ecological simulations. Feeding cycles. Stable loops. A blueprint for endless hunting without collapse. The creature paused. For the first time in its existence, it was offered something other than food. Purpose. Dominion observers screamed as the super predator altered course, away from Earth. Away from human space. Toward Dominion core worlds. Not in rage. In balance. The Dominion finally understood. Humans weren't prey. They weren't predators. They were ecological engineers. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The super predator did not rampage through the Dominion core. That was the most terrifying part. It selected. Entire worlds watched in horror as the extinction engine bypassed planets already stripped to bedrock, systems the Dominion had exhausted centuries ago, and instead targeted the richest ones. Industrial capitals, breeding worlds, command nexuses dense with power, population, and excess. Not randomly. Precisely. Dominion scientists tracked the pattern and felt something close to despair. It's pruning us, one whispered. Like diseased tissue. Human analysts reached the same conclusion, calmly. The super predator wasn't destroying civilization. It was correcting imbalance. Amiya stood in the observation gallery as feeds streamed in. He didn't feel triumph. He felt recognition. Earth's history echoed in every calculated strike. Forest fires that renewed soil, predators that prevented collapse, extinctions that made space for adaptation. Humanity had evolved inside those cycles. The Dominion had tried to rule above them. A desperate transmission cut through the room. The Dominion Council. Fractured. Panicked. No longer unified. We surrender, the lead counselor said, voice trembling. Call it back. Name your terms. Amiya exchanged glances with command. The answer came from Earth itself. Not a general, not a politician, but a civilian ecologist brought in as advisor. We can't call it back, she said quietly. And we won't. The counselor recoiled. Then you doom us. No, she replied. You already doomed yourselves. We're just letting the system finish stabilizing. Silence fell. What? The counselor asked slowly. Are humans? Amiya leaned forward, voice steady. We're the species that learned early that survival isn't about being the strongest predator. He gestured to the star map, where the super predator's path glowed like a surgeon's line. It's about knowing when to hunt, when to feed, and when to stop. The Dominion had no answer to that. Across the galaxy, species that had hidden from the Dominion for generations watched as the great predator empire was reshaped. Not conquered, not exterminated, but reduced to something sustainable. The super predator slowed. Its hunger eased as ecosystems rebalanced. It didn't need to consume endlessly anymore. It had learned restraint. And that terrified the galaxy more than violence ever could. Because restraint meant intent. Amiya realized then that humanity had crossed a line no species ever had. They hadn't just survived predators. They hadn't just eaten them. They had taught them when not to eat. And whatever came next would remember who taught that lesson. The war ended without a victory parade. No celebrations. No monuments carved from enemy hulls. Just quiet. Former Dominion space looked different now. Shipping lanes reopened under joint oversight. Worlds once stripped bare were left alone to heal. Predator populations stabilized, no longer exploding or collapsing, moving in patterns humans recognized instantly. Balanced. Sustainable. Terrifyingly calm. Amiya returned to Earth months later. Not as a hero. As a case study. Every academy wanted his debrief. Every science council wanted to dissect the moment a human decided to feed the enemy's weapon instead of fighting it. During one closed session hearing, a young cadet finally asked the question no one else dared. Sir, are we still human? The room stilled. Amiya considered the question carefully. Humans have always done this, he said at last. We step into systems bigger than us. We break them. Then we learn how to live inside the pieces. A pause. What's different now, he continued, is that the galaxy noticed. And it had. New treaties formed, not military alliances, but ecological accords. Species began requesting human advisors not for war, but for restoration. Collapsed food chains. Runaway predators. Failing biospheres. Humans showed up with data, patience, and rations. Some species worshipped them. Others feared them. Both reactions made humans uncomfortable. Because there was one truth no one wanted to say out loud. If humans could rebalance predators, they could rebalance empires. Late one night, Amiya stood on a balcony overlooking Earth's oceans. A message arrived on his personal terminal, encrypted, priority 0. Unknown origin. The file contained a single image. Not Dominion. Not human. Something older. A relic star map, etched with symbols matching no known civilization. At its center, a warning glyph translated loosely into human terms. Do not teach them hunger. Amiya felt a chill. Attached was a short data burst, records of civilizations long gone, not destroyed by war, not by predators, but by species exactly like humans. Species that learned how to manage ecosystems so well, they began managing everything. Populations, evolution, choice, gods in all but name. The final line of the message pulsed softly on his screen. You have awakened the gardeners. Amiya closed his eyes. Because for the first time since the ambush, he wasn't sure humanity had won. Maybe they'd just proven they were ready for something far worse. Something that hunted not with teeth, but with balance. The gardeners arrived without fleets. No armadas. No weapons fire. No declarations. One moment the stars were empty, and the next, entire constellations subtly shifted. Not moved, corrected. Orbits adjusted by fractions. Radiation levels dampened. Dying stars stabilized as if unseen hands had steadied them. The galaxy felt it before it saw it. A pressure. A presence. Amiya stood in the same command chamber where the Dominion surrender had been broadcast months earlier. Now, every known species was watching the same projection. A figure appeared. Not humanoid. Not monstrous. Abstract. A living equation rendered in light and gravity. You altered a closed system. The voice resonated, bypassing language entirely. That is a gardener's prerogative. No threat. Just statement. Human representatives didn't deny it. We prevented collapse, one replied. We restored balance. The entity considered this. Stars behind it dimmed and brightened in slow rhythm. So did we, it answered. Until we learned balance enforced from above becomes stagnation. Images flooded the chamber. Ancient civilizations frozen in perfect harmony. No war. No hunger. No growth. No choice. Dead in everything but name. You fed predators, the gardener continued. You taught restraint. You allowed failure. Amiya realized something then. This wasn't a judgment. It was an evaluation. What happens now, someone asked. The gardener's form shifted, softer somehow. Now, you replace us. Shock rippled through the chamber. We're not gods, Amiya said quietly. The entity focused on him. Neither were we, it replied. We were caretakers who stayed too long. Silence stretched. Finally, the gardener began to fade, constellations settling back into place. Remember this, human, it said, its voice echoing through space-time. Predators can be fed. Empires can be balanced. But curiosity, a pause, must never be satisfied. And then they were gone. The galaxy exhaled. Humanity stood alone, not as prey, not as predator, but as something far more dangerous. A species that could choose restraint. A species that could choose hunger. And knew the cost of both. Somewhere, deep in human archives, a new rule was written in quiet, careful text. Never forget what you are capable of eating. Because the moment humanity forgot that lesson, they wouldn't need predators anymore. They become the final one. If this story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars. Milky Way.